Cool. We are live.
We are live, and we got a special guest.
Who is today's special guest, Coach?
One of my first world champions, Bobby Southworth. Bobby B. South.
Oh,
Glad
Brian,
to have you on, Bobby.
Nice to meet you, Brian. Good to
Likewise,
see you.
Mr. Bobby. I see your image every time I go to AK on the wall.
Say that one more time. Sorry, I hit some button.
I see your image every time I go to AK on the wall.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I am. I'm up on the wall of champions.
Yes, sir.
One of the first champions, but you see I'm in the lowly corner, way to the right there. No love.
Oh, don't worry, Bobby. You'll get less love as time goes on.
As long as I got a space up there.
You'll always have a space, but you'll get less love.
All
Put
right.
me ahead of Mike. Just put me ahead of Big Mike.
Well, he never got a world title, so you'll always be ahead of Big Mike.
Oh, I thought he was up there. I don't know. I've only been to the headquarters. See, Brian, like I moved to Texas in 2010 and we were still at the third AKA, but it's really the second one. It was on Hillsdale Boulevard.
On Hillsdale, right across
Yeah,
from
so
the power finish, right?
It was really the fourth one, Bobby.
Really?
Jeez.
Yeah.
I thought Foxworthy was the second.
No, the first one was actually the glass shop.
The glass shop was the first one, and then I thought Foxworthy was after the glass shop.
No, a Union. Scott Coker's old school was the first real gym.
Oh, okay.
Then Foxworthy, where I met you,
Yeah.
and then Hillsdale, where you trained with us and you taught for me in the whole bit. And that's the last you remember, yeah.
Yeah. And then I came to, geez, it was like, last summer wasn't my first time there, was it? I've been there once before. I've been there once.
Might have been there once before, yeah. Yeah,
It was good.
13, 14 years, huh?
Jeez.
12 since I met, almost 13, 12 since I moved to San Antonio. But yeah, they were still in Hillsdale, and I don't know, it was maybe a year in 2011 that you opened up the HQ down there?
No, we opened there at 2010, bro.
So it must have been, because I left in March, so it must have been shortly after I left sometime.
After you left, we opened, I believe, sometime July or June. I don't remember. It was summertime.
Yeah. It was a big change.
And yeah, big change. A lot of different things. And remember the Ultimate Fighter? You were one of the original cast members of the original Ultimate Fighter. You, Mike Swick, Josh Koscheck, Diego Sanchez, the whole group, Stefan Bonner, Forrest Griffin. Man, what was that like? You remember, Bobby?
I remember that it was a big change, like I tell everybody, they ask, when you look back on it, I loved being in the house. I loved being able to only have to worry about like training and fighting. But when you're there, when you first get there, it's really, really different, man, because things you take for granted, like we were sequestered the whole time. And our season was the longest, I don't know, it was either 8.5 weeks or 10.5 weeks. It was the longest film season ever. It was just forever. And it's like you take being able to go, like if you want to go to the store to get a candy bar, you can't do it. And it's like, you think it's like that's not a major thing, but having people tell you what to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it was rough. I mean, I was 35 at the time, so I wasn't in my 20s like everybody else. So for me, it was, I had like these kids who were like 5 years older than my daughter, talking shit to me. So it was hard for me.
And you were on season 1, right?
He was the original cast.
I was on The Ultimate Fighter. There was no seasons then. The Ultimate Fighter.
He was in, him, Mike Swick. And remember, John Fitch was going to be our fourth AKA guy. And he went to the airport. He checked in his luggage. And go ahead, Bobby, tell him what happened.
That's the craziest story. He went there and he checked in his luggage and he's getting his tickets. And then he gets a phone. He's like getting ready to walk to the gate and he gets the phone call. You're not on the show.
Wow.
Right. And they've already, like, he can't even see his bags. They've already gone down the conveyor. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are you going to do at that point? He's frantically telling them to get his bags back, get his bags back. It was just, I felt, I mean, actually, I didn't know this until after the fact, because I was already on a plane going to the show myself. And so I didn't even know that till after we got back. He told us all the story. And I was just like, what? Because I got there, I thought he was going to be on the show. I mean, I wasn't supposed to know that he was going to be on the show, but I thought he would be there. And we were friends, so that was going to be a plus for me.
Right.
I mean, there would have been four. Actually, there would have been four of us there, but Koscheck, I'd never even seen him at the gym before. So I actually met Koscheck on the show, and he was already an AKA guy. And that's how we became friends.
What happened with Jon that they called him and said, "Hey, you're no longer on the show"?
I don't know the story behind that. Like, I don't know, like, did they put Chris Lieben on in his place? Did they put this guy Jason Backer on in his place? I don't know what happened with that. We heard the story after that. You know, it worked out better for him, to tell you the truth. And I mean, in my opinion, because he still got into the UFC, you know, in my opinion, he's still one of the top welterweights to ever fight in the UFC, even though he didn't win a title. I mean, he fought and beat the who's who of his era in the welterweight division, except for one guy.
GSP.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and he's kind of people overlook him, but he's one of the greatest welterweights, in my opinion, ever do it in the UFC. Maybe didn't have the most fan-friendly style, but I mean, it's like Fast and the Furious, right? Whether you win by an inch or a mile, winning's winning. He was winning.
He was a winner, and he was one that persevered regardless of the shitty situations that he was in. I mean, I remember at one point when all you guys were gone, and he was left there to train with the one-legged MMA fighter, and he didn't bitch and complain about that. he still went to work.
It's just more hob time. It was just more hob time for him, right?
He didn't really get my time. That was not he wasn't my guy. He was Lynn.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I had so many people, and I was struggling with sleep apnea and all bunch of crazy demons, and you know, from the lack of sleep that people never realized that, you know, and you know, it's so funny. You think that the older I got, the less people I would train, but actually I train more people now than I did back then because I'm able to do more now. Wow. If back then it was too hard just to even get up out of bed, but no one knew that, of course, no one knew that. But hey, it's you know, dealing with sleep apnea and whatnot, and then deprive yourself of sleep because of that. Wow, you know, I go three days without any sleep, just closing my eyes. And believe it or not, though, just closing your eyes, you do get rest. You do get rest. And about the third day, you know, I'm out, you know, and then I get refreshed again. And then a few days later, the cycle restarts again. It was not fun.
Yeah, it's crazy what you just said about less fighters, because we were talking about Hillsdale. You know, and those were great days. I remember those days because MMA wasn't huge yet, and after the show was growing, but the team, you know, there's maybe 15, 20 guys that were fighting in good promotions, and then there were a few guys under them. But like when I walked in last summer to the headquarters, and I walked into the training room, and there's fucking 20 Dagestani dudes in there. There's like, I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, there was like 50 guys, maybe more than 50 dudes in there. It was like, I couldn't believe it. And everybody was killers, like 50, you know what I mean? 50 killers, 50 Hannibal Lecters, maybe 60 of them in the room. It was like, you know, everybody fighting somewhere, UFC, Bellator, one championship, you know what I mean? And then there were up and coming guys, but I was just like, gee, you know, like I was like, holy moly, this is crazy.
Yeah, different level. It was just the same thing when I went to Dagestan and I saw what they're doing over there. And I'm like, wow, that's why I've been saying to everybody that you guys don't know what I know. That's why I said the best gym is really in Dagestan, and people don't know about it, but they will. And now the secret's out. Everybody's starting to understand what I was saying. So now you're fighting a Dagestani, you know, fighter. You're kind of like, oh, maybe I don't want to fight that guy.
Yeah.
For good reason. American fighters they're well rounded.
Going over there, right? There's a lot of American fighters going to Dagestan just to train.
I think they're trying.
They're trying.
When I was there, I didn't see any. So I think now maybe they're trying to get down there, but now with the situation the way it is, I don't know if it's possible at all. You know. Yeah. I think it's still they're coming to train where they need to train, especially if they're fighting in the States. See, they're very smart in the sense that if they have a fight in the US of A, they don't come from Dagestan and come all the way over here 7 days out. They'll come stay here, get acclimated, used to the climate and whatnot. So they go into the fight knowing what they're up against, and it's not the cardio, it's not the element. It's just the opponent that they have to deal with, and that's actually beautiful. How they've always done that. They band together and they make it work one way or another.
Yeah, smart. I always like to show up if we were going to Japan, I always try to get there as early as I can. One, I don't like flying. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, I grew accustomed to it, but I always was really scared to fly. And jet lag hits me pretty hard. So I always wanted to get there as early as possible.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Japan, as you know, Bobby, they'll try to get you as late as possible to try to get the advantage. They want to spend the least amount of money and make you, especially if you're fighting a Japanese fighter, they'll make it as difficult for you as possible to have you have the worst day, and therefore your preparation would be horrible. And you know what they used to do? When a friend of mine, they used to go train in judo over there. What they used to do is they called it the A team, B team type thing. I don't know what they called it, but anyways, he said that what they would do is they would take them out, get them all drunk and stuff. The B team would, and then they come in and have to face the A team. And they said they get all wiped out by the A team in practice because, you know, they were out late night, but the A team was out sleeping.
He must have been a white belt drinker then. He should have been ready, right?
Wasn't a Bobby Southworth drinker.
Yeah, not anymore. I'm a white belt drinker now, man. 2 beers, man. I'm ready to go to bed after 2 beers. It's crazy.
Brian, you want to hear the funniest story about Bobby B. Southworth?
I want to hear stories now that we're
okay. Let me tell you a funny story about Bobby.
Story times.
Okay, one, you know, Bobby's profusely sweats like crazy. He's one of my biggest sweaters of all time. So I'm training Bobby, and we're working out, and he's sweating, pouring everywhere. And sweat hits my mouth. I'm like, oh. I'm like, God damn, Bobby. I go, Bobby, have you been drinking? He starts laughing. He goes, yeah, actually, I don't know what you did. I don't know how much you said you drank.
I said I had a couple beers at lunch. What? I had a couple beers at lunch. Yep, I remember that.
Before coming to train.
I tasted it and his sweat was so disgusting, man. I said, man, wear shirts or something. I'm not gonna catch a damn sweat. And he's always sorry.
You don't like Foster's? You gotta like Foster's, man.
Man, I don't know what the hell you were drinking.
That was my beer of choice. It was Foster's and Sapporo back then.
The Sapporo.
That's crazy. The big silver cans. So I'd have one at lunch.
What about when you went to Japan? You got so nervous you threw up, and I had a video of you throwing up on the can.
Yeah. Wait, he's not what he's telling you. They remember what he said about the Japanese calling you late. I'm fighting Vitor Belfort on 2 weeks' notice, and it's like my third professional fight, right? And so, wouldn't you be shitting a brick? I mean, he's lucky I wasn't shitting in the book, but I was throwing up. You know what I mean? It's like 35. There's 35,000 people. My biggest venue before that was maybe 3,000 at Eagle Mountain Casino for the IFC or something like that. And
look. This is why we got involved into management. Remember, Bobby? Because what happened to you there? Because we had Tommy Rojas. Tommy Rojas was your manager, and he told us he had a fight for you against Vitor Belfort. And I go, Bobby don't have enough experience for that. So we said no. And then, so you said yes. And you were the boss. You ruled. So it's because of that we got involved in the management, because I go, what the hell? We know more than Tommy. Tommy's asking us what to do, and we're telling him not to do this, and he's doing what we're telling him he shouldn't be doing. So there was the emergence of, you know, why, you know, you have a manager that actually knows what the hell he's doing, because those kind of rookie mistakes, all Tommy was thinking, oh, I got him beat Vitor Belfort. He didn't realize Vitor Belfort too much experience.
Yeah, he was thinking he got me into Pride, and that was the thing. Like, Hobb didn't want me to do it, but it was like that was when Pride was the place. Like, everybody wanted to fight in Pride. You know, this is pre-Ultimate Fighter, pre the UFC explosion. I actually already had a fight lined up in June or something like that with Phil Baroni, but then this opportunity came to fight in Pride, and it was like, I mean, you know, if I told them no, then I probably never would have gotten another call. I probably never. It was an opportunity, right? And an opportunity knocks. You got to open the door, and it probably wasn't the best decision, but you know, I it was like kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And you end up, I'm like literally Vitor Belfort. So he has 2 submission wins in his entire career, and I'm one of his submission wins.
That was Pride 13.
Yeah, I just froze up at the wrong time. I mean, I felt like I was doing pretty good in the fight. I mean, I landed some shots. He didn't hit me on the feet, which was his big thing. So he took me down. I was doing okay on the ground, and then he started to pass my guard. I tried to get up, and he got to my back, and I froze up, and he choked me.
Well, it's for that very reason why I didn't want you to take the fight. It wasn't that I didn't think you could. Like if it was at the gym sparring, I'd let you spar them all day long.
Yeah.
But competition is different.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
it's different in competition because your nerves is performing, and it's like a singer, right? A singer goes out and performs in front of 10,000 people versus a singer goes out and performs in front of the gym. It's no problem. But when it goes out 10,000 people, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah. It changes everything. Experience, and that was the only issue. Not that Belfort was too much. It's just too experienced in the fights. That was it.
And the whole experience of being in Japan and at that big venue. I mean, that was a great experience for me, except for losing, obviously. And then because I lost, obviously I didn't get to fight in the UFC. So it set me back a little bit. And, it's always 20/20 hindsight. I should have listened to the coach. But, fighters, when you're a fighter and you're going to want to fight, and any fighter worth the salt is going to take that opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was the thing, and we felt that we should have been offered that should have never came to the table, because once it was brought to the table, we had to bring it to you. We couldn't tell you no, because you have to, still to this day I still do that. Like Ron Kessler and I are managing fighters, and we get something on the table, we have to tell the fighter, because he has to decide what he wants to do. We can advise against it, we can advise for it, but he's the sole decision maker. And that's the way it should always be, because, and for those fighters that are listening, you should always be in control of your career. Never let a manager control you. You're the boss. You're the one that the paychecks are coming to, not him, not the coach, not the manager, but you have advisors and you listen, but you have to have someone you trust, as your advisors. You definitely need advisors, because without that, it won't work. It'll work bad, and you'll probably never make it, to be honest with you. If you have bad advisement, you probably won't make it.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't the best listener, but
No, but you were never a problem either. You were never a problem. You're never a problem. You stated your opinion, and whatever came, good or bad, you did what you did. Like, we didn't regret you taking the fight. We didn't want you to, but that's what you did. You're a fighter. You're not afraid of no one. That's what fighters do. They fight.
Yeah.
So after Pride, you went to Tough, and then from Tough to Strikeforce.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably a little bit more roundabout than that. Like, I think because that fight in Pride was in 2000, I think, or 2001, and then so I still fought I still was like the champion in the IFC. I think I still had a couple. I'd have to go back. I still had a few more fights.
Oh, okay.
And then I actually walked away from the sport at one point. That was part of the whole Ultimate Fighter experience, was because I had ended up walking away from the sport. Me and Hav kind of had a little bit of a personal disagreement and went our separate ways. And so I was kind of retired. And then one of our old managers, Crazy Bob, kind of smoothed it for me to come back. And like literally, the day I come back, everybody's talking about this thing, the Ultimate Fighter. And I asked Bob, what's this thing? And he tells me, and I'm like, can you guys send my tape in? He didn't want to send tape in. I was like, well, give me the fucking address and I'll send the tape in myself. So he said, oh, well, okay, give it to me and I'll send it in. And some of these things I'm going to tell you, I didn't know at the time. I didn't even realize this until this show came out. Like they were trying to make it like road rules, right? And Dana came in and was like, oh, look, at the end of the day, you can't have a bunch of Keeping Up with the Kardashians reality people because they can't fight. At the end of the day, they're going to have to fight. And so they started recasting, I guess. And during the recasting, a lot of the guys were failing a lot of the things that they didn't want them to fail. I mean, I don't want to, not to say anything bad about anybody, like background checks, drug tests, steroid tests, things like that. And that's really how I wound up at the show, I guess. It was kind of like, I wasn't a first pick, so to speak, I guess. I mean, it was, but it fell down to me and I got the opportunity, and it was, it was quite an experience.
But you had some memorable moments there with Chris Lieben and you.
Hey man, I had some great moments on that show. I'm the only guy who didn't win, who was in every single episode of the season. I was good for drama. Part of that was what I was telling you earlier, right? It was like I was really rebelling and having a hard time being caged up and controlled. You know, and it wasn't, it was, to me, it was like prison, even though you're living in this nice house with a hot tub and pool, and you get to go to this state-of-the-art gym, and you're got coaches and all this stuff. But it's like, you know, it's like it was tough. It was hard for me to do it.
How much weight did you lose for one of the fights? I remember they were dragging you in and out.
It was 22 pounds, man. That cut, that was crazy. 22 pounds in 24 hours.
Whoa.
That was crazy. And I don't even remember that. Did I ever tell you that story? Like, me and Goy are sitting on the couch watching the fight when I fought Loden, and the fight goes down. We come out for the second round. I land that 3-piece, and he goes down. I run in to finish him, and like Big John like sticks me into the cage. And my recollection of that was we came out and Loden threw a kick, and I hit him with one right hand, and he crumbled. That's like my coherent memory, because that weight cut was so. Dude, did you know that, like, in the back room when I was warming up, like, I was so dehydrated and the cramps were so bad that it was pulling me into a fetal position, and they were having, two dudes were having to grab me and pull me out, and like my stomach would look like there was an alien in there because it was contracting and uncontracting so bad. It was crazy. There's like 48 to 60 hours that I don't really have a full recollection of during that whole weight cut and fight thing. It's crazy. I'm serious. It's probably lucky that I didn't die. You know what I mean?
You know, it's just amazing what you'll put your body through just to have the opportunities, right? I mean, that's the crazy part. And then when you think back about it, right, like you are now, you're going, why? Why did I do that? You know, but at that time, no one can convince you otherwise, right?
Yeah. I probably would have kept going into the sauna to try to make weight until I started convulsing. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't say it was all me, because don't get me wrong, the sauna will break you. I'm lucky that I had Koscheck was there, and Forrest was there, and and those guys were really helping me. It was crazy, man. I would be in the sauna riding the bike, and there was a time where, like, I was riding the bike, and the next thing I knew, Koscheck was holding me in his arms because I was riding the bike, and I passed out off the bike and fell, and he caught me, and they took me out of the sauna. That was right before that scene where I'm like all laying there, and he drugged me back into the sauna. It's crazy.
The thing about Koscheck that I remember is he's so good at catching the media attention. He's so good at catching the camera. Yeah. He was a mastermind at learning how to get the camera focused on him and what he needed to say to get more camera time. I observed him through all the years he was with us, and he was a mastermind at that. He knew how to get the camera. He knew how to get.
He had a good like a kind of a pro wrestling stick. You know what I mean? Where he was really good and would have some good one-liners. Yeah, he was good.
He was really good. When he was on your side, he was like the best guy ever. When he was against you, he was the worst guy ever.
Yeah.
I experienced both of them, so I know, and I don't blame him. He did what he did. I was the head coach, and I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And like I had said previously, if I had ever seen him, I would say I apologize for not doing the right thing by you, and I did. And I'm sincere about that, because regardless, like, when you have kids, right, your kids act up, this and that, you know who they are, you know what they're all about. Well, you can't single your kids out and leave them out on the playing field. You got to give them the attention. If they need talking to, you got to bring in and have a talking to them. And I knew he was acting up. I knew he was doing things. And so I was reporting to the manager. I said, hey, he's doing this, he's doing that, and they said, okay, Hob, we'll take care of it. They never took care of it. They never did nothing. But that wasn't their responsibility, even though they told me, we'll handle Koscheck, don't worry about it. So I let it go. So it just led one thing after another. It got worse and worse. And
I was gone then. I saw all that on the Fight Factory. I was living in Texas when all that was going down. So I remember.
And real quick, for people who don't know what the Fight Factory is, Coach, what is the Fight Factory?
Well, it was a reality show involving AKA, and they made it I think they ended up making it a feud, more or less, between me and Koscheck, right, Bobby? I wasn't sure. I didn't watch the show. I didn't watch it.
The show was all about that feud. It was, there was other things going on behind the scene, but that was definitely one of the main threads. The main themes of the show was that.
I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it.
It was like Dethroned versus AKA kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They wanted to do a second season, and they called me, and they wanted to do the best gyms, my gym versus his gym. And I said, no. Number one, he doesn't have a real gym, fight gym. They're not comparable to what we have. Number two, there's real hate. He actually really hates me, and I want nothing to do with it. You guys go stick that up your ass. I don't want this show. So I killed the second season because I didn't want nothing to do with it, because, you know, it was all being set up. I got set up every which way. I'd come in, and I'm like, I get blindsided by things, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? I didn't know what was going on.
See, now you know that's how you feel on. That's how it was on Tough. You would come in and they would create situations and they would create drama, and you know, it was, so I do understand how you feel. But I would have paid. I mean, you should have done it. I would have put it on pay-per-view. I might have.
If they would have involved me in what's going on, I would have. But they didn't. They did a picnic thing where I overheard they were going to set me up, you know, and I didn't show up. I go, fuck that shit. They're not going to set me up. I'm not going for that. So I didn't go. So then the thing was, I heard was, where's Hob? Well, why isn't he here? And then Joanna says, well, because he kind of overheard you guys were going to gang up on him.
So that's the reality of reality TV, right there.
Yeah, right. So the reality is it's set up. You know, I mean, they don't tell you what to do, but they just set it up to do that, because in that reality show, there was a great sequence between myself and Mike Kyle, where we almost went fist to fist, right? And I thought for sure they were going to put that on there, but the thing was so good, but it didn't belong in the script, because Mike Kyle didn't know who he was. So here I am fighting with somebody. They didn't know what that was all about. There was no storyline on Mike Kyle. So they picked a story. They picked a storyline and they followed that storyline.
With it.
That's why. So that's why they did what they did. That's why they set you up, because this is the story. Let's say we do something on Bobby Southworth, and they're focusing all on you, then all of a sudden something really exciting happens with Brian, but no one knows who Brian is, and they start filming Brian, and he comes into the picture, and the fans are going to go, well, who's that guy? It's because they don't understand the storyline. You got to build the storyline. So I understand them now. So that's the direction they have to go.
So really, the people that are there, you want to do things that make the camera want to be on you, like you were saying about Koscheck.
Yeah,
I did that. I didn't do that on purpose. I really think Koscheck was good at doing that on purpose. I just did that by accident, which is how I ended up, or maybe because I'm just an asshole, you know. And that's just how the cameras ended up following me so much.
I don't think so.
Fighter,
I mean,
you know?
you had it out with Chris Lieben, and the big thing was that you called him a fatherless bastard, and Al he freaked out about that, and then the funny thing about that is, if I'm not mistaken, you were adopted yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm adopted. I never knew. You know, I never even told you this. So like a couple of years, like 2 years during COVID, just before COVID, you remember Rachel? We had we had a son, so we had Justin, and so she wanted to find out about his genealogy, and they put his stuff into like Ancestry or 23andMe or something like that, and so her and her mother popped up on the maternal side, and then this other lady, some lady popped up on the paternal side. And to make a long story short, it turned out being my biological mom, my birth mom. And so it was for me for a couple of weeks there, it was hard for me, you know, because I was adopted when I was 6 weeks old, and my mom is my mom. There was a whole thing where my sister went and found out about her birth mother and really didn't tell my mom about it until after the fact. So anyways, Rachel started making all these calls and calling people who were popping up from this paternal side, from that lady, and from my father, my birth father, who it turns out was actually a pro football player. He played in the NFL. Yeah, crazy. Played in the NFL for a couple of years. And so all of a sudden, all this stuff started bombarding me, and she's telling me, and then this lady's hitting me up through Facebook Messenger who was the sister of my birth mother. And it was just, I was like thinking about it, and then all of a sudden, the next thing I knew, it was like 5 hours later. Like I was on the couch and I was looking at these messages. I guess it was just some kind of, you know, emotional type of thing was happening in my brain. I just passed out. It was like 4 or 5 hours later that I woke up. It was like, I guess I have more going on in my head about that whole situation than I ever even really knew about. But yeah, you're right. Like, so that was the thing. Like, I mean, granted, when I said that to Chris, you know, we had been in the house, they had us cooped up for like 4.5 weeks, and they took us to dinner and to the Kid Rock concert, VIP with open bar. And so we were literally drinking for 8 hours straight.
Jeez.
Yeah,
it was crazy. I mean, I was faded. I mean, you know, for a big part of my life, drinking, you know, I drank and stuff like that, but this is probably, I was hurting for days. I mean, I've been hungover before, but after that drinking binge, I was sore for 3 days. Like somebody beat me with a nightstick. My body hurt. It was crazy. So, but yeah, I mean, to say that to Chris, I mean, really, that's technically me as well. So it's.
Have you talked to Chris?
You know, we buried the hatchet, not on the show or anything like that, but there was a couple reunion shows, and you know, I apologized to him several times. And I mean, Chris is Chris. If you know anything about his history, I mean, he had things going on. He's in a much better place in his life, you know, as well. I
He
think
seems
so.
to be in a good place.
Yeah, I mean, I think so am I. Like, I used to be kind of a partier, and I don't really drink and do the things that I don't live the type of life that I used to live. And I think I'm in a better place, definitely mentally. And we spoke a couple times at the reunion stuff, and he pretty much absolved me. He said, "We're good, man," and we shook hands. And I mean, I always respected that guy. What happened on the show was just, I mean, you get 16 alpha dudes in a room, in a house for that long, sequestered, and you know, tempers are going to flare. I mean, ask Hob. I mean, the fight room at AKA, when, at least when I was there at Hillsdale, like guys ask me all the time, and I tell them, I'm like, dude, you wouldn't even survive the verbal battles in our fight room, let alone survive the training. I tell guys, you're not going to be a fighter. You're not going to. It's going to be hard for you because you're too thin-skinned. You wouldn't even survive what we consider to be banter. When most people are watching, they think it's like serious shit. I mean, we're saying real shit, and there's emotion behind it. But when practice is done, most of it, I mean, members will flare, but most of the time you shake it off, and it's just part of the game. You know what I mean? It's just, most people won't even survive the training room. They won't.
You can't. It's too hard. You gotta be thick-headed, and you gotta be driven to survive the fighter training. It's the lifestyle that you guys have to do. You have to. If you're gonna be a great fighter, you're gonna have to go through that type of, you know, what you guys do. You have to. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. You do. You can't be weak about that stuff. You gotta be, you know, it's gotta be like.
And you have to do it
duck, like what is water off a duck's back, right? It's
yeah.
kind of like that. You have to. I mean, it's
every day. Every day you have to show up, not just with your skills, your A game. You have to show up like with your verbal skills, with your cap game on point. You have to show up, you know, ready to deal with everybody. Because when you're having a bad day, they're gonna let you know it. You know, even you can come show up with your A game and still have a shitty day in the training room. Trust me, that's how. I mean, even before now, we had a pretty deep room, so you could still bring your best day, and then Kane needs the sparring partner, right?
Yeah.
And there, you know, that's going to ruin your week, let alone the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Kane ruined a lot of days for people.
Yeah. Hope nobody's wants to spar Kane, Bobby. You got to get up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like fucking, you're not happy.
No.
I mean, he would whip your ass half trying. I used to dread sparring him. I mean, looking back, I should have sucked it up harder, but it was just, he was a fucking beast.
He was just something else.
Yeah, he is. Well, you know, he's thank God he's out, you know, and he's at home arrest, but they're allowing him to go to work. Yeah, they're allowing him to work. So he's going to go to and he's going to perform in the Lucha Libre event here. I think it's is it December 3rd, Brian, or December 2nd?
December 3rd.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, Phoenix, Arizona, his old college. He's performing there, so it'll be really good, you know.
So I thought you were gonna. There was something else we were gonna talk about. There was another topic. Fight? Was it a fight?
Well, what do you guys think about what happened to the PFL? Kayla Harrison, the unbeatable. She got beat.
I'll be honest and say that I didn't see the fight, partly because I agree with you. It's like 155-pound women. I mean, it's like, hopefully that division will grow and be exciting, but it didn't really have a lot of interest for me. So I also went to YouTube to see, and they had the 2 previous fights, but there was no footage available. Usually there's footage available right away to see those fights, but there's no footage out there for us to see, which that reeks a little bit, right?
Yeah, I didn't watch the fights either. I really, for me as a fan, I want the PFL to grow. I want them to grow because it's good for our sport. All in general, it's really good for the sport for them to grow, because the more opportunities for up and coming fighters, you know, they have an organization like the PFL. That, from everything I heard, the PFL is a good organization. They just need to pick up some steam. So I like the fact that they're there, and I want them to grow. I want more organizations to grow, so more opportunities for more fighters, because most of the fighters, especially as you know from wrestlers, Bobby, they after wrestling, after college wrestling, then they don't have an outlet and they still want to wrestle, and MMA gives them a lot of that outlet for a lot of them, and that's why they're going to MMA.
100%.
But you know, for me, I'm all for the organizations. I want all the organizations to make it, you know, because it helps us all, you know. And but that fight I didn't see, and it could very well be because maybe she's so darn dominant. I never really cared to watch because she's that dominant. But I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard that they're going into the 5th round. It was tied 2-2, and Kayla was on top and the girl was on the bottom, and she won from the bottom. When has that ever happened? A girl wins the round from the bottom, punching, hammer fisting, elbowing from the bottom. That's what I hear.
Did you see it, Brian?
No, you know what, I didn't. I tried to see it, but the pay-per-view amount was just a little too high for one fight.
Oh, yeah.
But I tried to catch all the recaps and all that. There was really nothing much. But what I did notice, that Larissa just seemed huge. She seemed like a big girl compared to Kayla. But no, I didn't get to see the whole thing. I just saw some of the highlights.
I saw a good fight on the undercard on PFL. It was Jeremy Stevens versus this guy, Natan Cholte. That was a pretty good fight. And I thought, you know, I've been a Jeremy Stevens fan for a long time, and I thought it was going to be more competitive. But man, that dude just put on a clinic and ended up, I mean, he crushed Jeremy Stevens. He was never in that fight.
You notice how funny it is that a lot of these guys that have had their heyday with the UFC, they get a rebirth somewhere else, an opportunity, but they're a shell of themselves, like Marias, right? Him too, right?
That was a great, oh man, did you see that fight?
No.
That was a great fight. And honestly, I gotta, not to cut you off, but like Marlon Moraes versus Shaman Moraes. Marlon, I've been a Marlon Moraes fan. He took a couple early knockouts, and in my opinion, his chin never came back from that. But he looked phenomenal in this fight. He was dominating that fight, Hog. He was kicking that guy's ass from the start of the fight till he got caught late in the 3rd round. But the guy just threw caution to the wind and caught him on the temple and was able to finish him. Marlon looked the best he's ever looked. Honestly, I mean, I felt so bad for him. I've seen his last. He's like got knocked out in the last 3 fights. He was dominating that fight. He just got caught, and the guy, it was.
But he's 0-5.
Yeah, he's on a bit bad skin, and he looked the best he had. He's looked in so long, and I was so happy. And that guy who beat him is also an ex-UFC fighter. Shaman Moraes was coming out of the UFC. It was a really good fight, man. That was a really good fight.
What did you see what happened to the featherweight title?
I did not. I think that was like Brendan Loughnane versus somebody. I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I've seen him fight. I like watching him fight. He's a good fighter.
The Division 1 wrestling 2-time champion from Arizona, I believe. What's his name, Brian?
I can't think of it on top of my head.
Dewey Cooper trains him. He was in the finals.
Bubba Jenkins? Was it Bubba Jenkins?
Bubba Jenkins.
Yeah.
He's good fighters. So it must have been a good fight.
Where you were talking about like guys going to the PFL and being a shell of themselves, I just think that in the last 10 years, man, there's just so much more parity in the level. You know what I mean? It's like everybody says the best fighters fight in the UFC, right? But then what happened when all the Strikeforce guys came over and just started wrecking shop? All of the name fighters that came over got belts. And I think you're just seeing we're seeing an expansion of that, where some of the fighters in the PFL, the better fighters in the PFL, are on a level that is on par with people who are in the UFC. And that's, like you said, it's just good for the sport in general.
Hey, I'm in agreement with you. All the organizations have top level guys that can beat anybody, you know, PFL, Bellator, ONE FC, Rizin, you know, they're all. You can't say that the UFC dominates all those divisions because they don't.
Not at
You know,
all.
the UFC's got the biggest roster. What do they got? 600 fighters under them, Brian? 700.
Last time I think it was like 12 and change. It was like 700 male
Jesus.
and 400 female or something, like somewhere around there. We checked last time.
So they got the biggest roster, they're the biggest name, and they obviously have the more talent, more stars because they have more people, but they don't have all of them. They do not have all of them.
No.
You know, so hey, you know, there's good organizations that are coming up, and you know, I want to support the PFL, I want to support Bellator, I want to support I want all those organizations.
What do you think about that? I first I heard of it was like last week where they're having the Bellator versus Rizin thing. What do you think about? Because Rizin, I haven't seen too much of the Rizin fights. I see some of the Bellator fights. What do you are there going to be some good matchups there?
Yeah, there are going to be some good matchups. They, you know, what's happening is Rizin has been just strictly staying in Japan. I've been hearing they're doing well, but it's mostly favoring the Japan crowd. And of course, they have a relationship with Scott Coker, you know, so they're doing their little show against each other, and you know they're going to see who's who what. They got AJ McKee, Patricky Pitbull. They got who else? I have one of my guys from my team, Team Habib. Gaji's fighting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's like 5 against 5, and I don't remember all the guys, but do you know who all the fighters are, Brian?
You have McKee versus Sousa. You have Pitbull versus Koki. I think the guy's name is Archuleta versus Kim, and Haraguchi versus Oyoji Kubo.
Okay.
One that hasn't been announced.
Okay, and that's Gaji.
That's probably Gaji's. Yep.
That's Gaji.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that going to be on Showtime, or is it going to be on?
I think it's I'm maybe it's the New Year's. It's the New Year's Rizin show.
Oh, they're doing it like Pride's New Year thing.
Yeah.
Pride used to do. Awesome.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be. I'm really interested to see that one. It'd be pretty interesting. It'd be pretty cool to watch.
Yeah.
It's a good show. You know, well, you know, Bobby, like you said, you know, you fought Vitor Belfort in front of 35,000 people, so you know how well Japan can throw shows. You know how good their shows are. You know how professional they are. You know, they're very good.
Oh, and I remember what Scott used to do with Strikeforce kickboxing with the flames and drum shows and the tricking Taekwondo people. I mean, he threw some pretty good shows himself.
Yeah,
so
yeah. What Bobby, curiosity, what do you think about Jon Jones coming up to heavyweight? Do you think he's going to do fantastic, or you think he's going to? What do you think?
It's hard to say. I mean, obviously, he's one of the more talented guys to ever fight, right? At heavyweight, he's got the frame. I mean, it's going to be a tell. How did he bulk up the right way? Is he going to have the cardio that he had? When he's bulked up, is he going to keep his light heavyweight speed? I mean, there's so many factors. I don't think he has the punching power because he didn't really have a lot of his finishes. He never had one punch at light heavyweight, right? He was more of a volume striker and get you down, ground and pound you out and wear you down. I mean, he's not going to stand in the pocket and bag with Ngannou or Derek Lewis or any of those guys. So, I mean, if he's tactical in his approach and has the right game plans, I think he can have some success at heavyweight for sure, but only time is going to tell. And he's been off. I mean, when was his last fight?
Almost over 2 years.
2020, right?
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years.
So,
yeah.
You know, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, aside from all whatever everybody talks about the stuff he does outside of the cage, you can't deny the guy, his talent, his skill, and his fight IQ. Right?
He's one of the greatest of all time, if not, you know, in some people's eyes, he's the greatest. You know, not mine, but he's definitely up there in my eyes. You know,
for sure.
And we all have our pick, and I'm biased, obviously, but we all have our picks. You know, and he's definitely one of them. But my feeling on him, since we fought him 2 times with DC, I see what he does to win. He'll do anything to win. He'll do anything. He'll prepare properly. He won't take. He doesn't take any chances. Like, for instance, remember when he was supposed to fight? I forgot who it was, and then I think it was it Belfort or was it whoever it was, remember we were supposed to fight, then Chael Sonnen came in and he said no, he won't fight Chael Sonnen, so they had to prepare for Chael Sonnen. They moved the show to Los Angeles because Jon wouldn't fight on a short notice, and then they had to prepare it, the show between him and Chael Sonnen, so he fought Sonnen. So even though he was well prepared
from Vegas,
fight,
right? They moved to Vegas to LA or something like that.
Yeah.
I think there was something else. There was something else with where he with the USADA, I think, with the testing, and they moved it to LA because of that.
Yeah, well, yes. He wouldn't fight. He wouldn't fight for whatever reason. And I told myself, well, this guy, he does everything right. So when I watched his training with the weights and how he did the weights and et cetera, how he's bulking up properly, I said, this guy's going to do it correctly. He's going to come in. And the cheat code I have in my mind, because I know how great of an athlete he is I have one of my fighters that used to train with him over there. And I used to ask him, how does he do with the heavyweights? And he said he kills them all.
Jeez.
So here's a guy already killing all the heavyweights back then at light heavyweight, because he wasn't really light heavyweight. It's probably 220, 225, 230, right? But he was killing them all. He was killing them all, according to him. So if he's at 250, you can imagine how much more damage he's doing. And who's got the wrestling pedigree he does in the heavyweight division besides one person? One person. You know, no one else has it. Ngannou doesn't have wrestling pedigree. Gon sure as hell doesn't. You know, who's got it other than one person has got the wrestling that can deal with him. You know, and who knows if he can deal with him all the way around. It's yet to be seen. It's very interesting. I'm interested to see.
Me too.
How he's going to do. I'm definitely going to be watching that fight when he comes out. Definitely going to be watching.
And if he does well at heavyweight and even wins the title, I think that's going to go more towards cementing his legacy, right? As you know, if he takes 2 weight division titles, I mean, it's going to be hard.
It's going to be as much as I would like to debate that. It's going to be undeniable.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm excited to see him fight.
I got a question for both of you. Now that we're kind of on the same subject, and I know, Coach, we kind of talked about it earlier. So, what are your thoughts now with the Jury Glover fight? Since you know we're switching opponents now.
Well, okay, this is my feeling of stuff like that. Okay, promotion is all about the promotion. They're not about the fighters. And when you're fighting for a title, which you're getting ready to do, and the champion's out, as a challenger, you're being offered the next title fight. You don't go, well, I don't want to fight that guy. This give me more time to train for him. Promotion has to go on. Well, okay, you got your opportunity. Move on to the next guy. They're not going to give that person an opportunity to train proper for this guy. He's not ready for that guy. That's just the way it works. The promotion, the machine has to keep going. From a promotional point of view, they're doing what's right for them. But Glover, from the point of, I want to prepare, I want to come in, I want to give it my best, I didn't prepare for that, he's right too. So
Agreed.
They're both correct, but how do you
mitigate it? It's tough.
Yeah, but you don't. You just move on. You got to learn to accept and wait your shot. You know, because now he's not the A side. The A side is the UFC, and the UFC is doing what's right for them. I don't see how them waiting for him is going to benefit them. It's not.
I mean, he made the right decision, and the UFC made the right decision. And I think the only fair thing, especially since Yuri's going to be out for a while, is whoever wins this fight is Glover should get the next title shot at the convenient, right? It's like Yuri.
You would think so. You would think so.
I would hope for his sake, because he's not getting any younger, and I'm a huge Glover fan, man.
Me too.
I mean, he puts it down for the old school guys. You know, he's doing it. He's been doing it for so long, and he's a great fighter and a great guy. I feel for him. You know, it sucks for him because of all those things I just said, and especially because of his age, right?
43.
But hopefully the UFC doesn't hold a grudge, right? Because like you said, he did the right thing for himself and his career. So hopefully he's still, I mean, to me, he's still the #1 contender, right? Yeah. And not to disagree with you, Hav, but it's because Glover's not just a challenger. He was the champion, barely removed from the throne. And so I kind of lean towards him. You know, I don't think, like you said, the promotion should hold up the show or hold up the belt for him. But I think that his decision, he should still be the #1 contender, whoever wins this next fight.
And I'm going to agree with you on this, but understand this, okay? he didn't have the kind of power that Jon Jones did to be able to cancel a show. If he did, then he could have changed it. Like I'll give you what I'm talking about. And that's what people need to understand is he who controls the eyeballs controls a lot of this. How come Nate Diaz can fight in the UFC event and ask for a 5-rounder and not even a title fight, not even a main event? How can that happen? How?
Because he's
no
popular.
one else would get that. Why did he get it? Right?
Yeah.
Because he puts eyes to the screen. He puts people on there. And that's what I'm talking about. So if Glover had the kind of power that they did, then he would have been able to get that done. And but that's the part I'm saying is I agree with Glover, but the promotion, he's not the A side, so they're not bent to him.
I see your point. Yeah, I totally understand that. If he had 1 or 2 more defenses under his belt, maybe he could have had that, but he had just won the belt, and so I agree with you. It's a good point.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I'm saying. That's why they're both right in what they're doing. The promotion has to go, and Glover has to take care of himself. That's the reason why I said that.
So realistically, let's say these guys fight in next week, right? December 10th.
2 weeks, I think it is.
December 10th. Realistically, after December 10th, the winner should be ready to go. What, mid 2023?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Can even push it out a year, depending on the injuries or what's going on in their life or whatever the case may be. Glover's 43. He'll be 44 next year. If something happens, I mean, the guy's fighting at 45, 44, 45.
Yeah.
Could this be it for him as well?
For me, I would love for Glover to get another shot. I think he's a professional through and through. He's super, super likable. I don't know him personally, but I've been around him and I see how his persona, it's real. He's just a real good guy, man. And I would love for him to have an opportunity at the title. And let's see what happens if that's what it's in the cards for him. But, you know, one thing that a lot of fighters need to understand, and Bobby, you know this, we're not a legit sport. And I say it all the time. I'd like to think we're a legit sport, because if we were, then none of this stuff would happen.
Right.
Because it's not a legit sport. Because look, in the Super Bowl, it's number 1 versus the other number 1 to see who's going to be the Super Bowl champ. It isn't like, take them out because we don't have a contract with them. Bring up number 3 and put them up. Let's go for the Super Bowl. No, it's this the way it goes.
You can do that.
Yeah, this is sports entertainment. It's a sports entertainment first, and it's a sports second. But more sports entertainment, because they're changing things around. In a true sport, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
there's sanctioning bodies, there's committees and all those kinds of things. But on that fight, I'm a huge Ankalaev fan. The guy has been climbing the ranks. I feel like maybe he could have got a title shot sooner, but I'm hoping that Jan somehow finds a way to beat him, which I don't think is possible, because Ankalaev, he's very tactical and he doesn't make very many mistakes, if any. It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight for Glover. And so I'm calling for Blachowicz to win, because I think Glover beats Jan in the rematch, retains the title, and then leaves his gloves in the ring and retires as champion. That's my hope. You know what I mean? I think that would be a great story.
Well,
but
for me,
we'll see.
For me, Ankalaev, he's my guy.
Yeah. So
he's in our group. So
I'm a huge fan, and he's gonna beat Blachowicz. That's how I'm seeing it. I'm just saying, for Glover's sake, I hope that Blachowicz wins, not because I don't like Ankalaev.
Blachowicz is a better fight for Glover.
For Glover, yes, he's a much better fight for Glover. You know, and I don't think Ankalaev's not a good fight for anybody. You know what I mean? He's just not.
He's good. He's good everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere. When Habib and us, when we're training in Vegas, he's right there in the same camp with us. He's not training with us, but they all know each other. They're from Dagestan, so they're right neighboring gyms to each other. So they're very friendly with each other. And I've been watching them quite a few times. His coach is a really good guy, and he's a good guy. And of course, you know, I have compassion for the people I know, and I know them. So obviously I'm pushing for them because I know them.
And you know what, real quick, hats off to Jerry for not holding up the 205.
Yeah,
Talk to him.
I was in shock, and I was a little bit pissed because I saw just the headline that he relinquishes his title and pulls out of the fight. And he's a strange nut, right? Yuri Prohaska.
Yes.
So I thought that, like, when I saw the title before I read the article and saw he was injured, I'm like, oh, the nut finally cracked. The pressure of all this, you can't go in your room for 3 days and meditate by yourself and all the stuff that he does
No
to
food,
prepare,
no
which is,
water. Yep.
he's a little, I'm not saying he's crazy or anything, but he's different, right? And I thought that maybe it all finally got to him. And so he was just like, oh, fuck, it's too much pressure. Fuck the title. I'm done. I'm quitting. And then I saw he was injured, and I was like, oh, great. That's good. Because he's a good fighter. He's a
He's
talented
interesting.
fighter. But he's like, I mean, he's Diego Sanchez on a whole level. You know what I mean? It's like,
It's fun to watch. That's all I know. It's fun to watch.
He's definitely.
Mad respects for what he did. Mad respects, because most fighters wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I agree.
They let the promotion take your title from you. They don't give it up willingly. He did it willingly. So that's big. That's a big ups for him, right? That's really big. So hey, he knows that once he's healed, he's gonna get his opportunity again.
Yeah. He's young too. I think he still has time.
It's crazy how big these light heavyweights are now. I mean, people were telling me I was a big light heavyweight, and I'm looking at these guys 6'4", 6'7". Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, I'm like a midget, I'm a little person in the light heavyweight division. These guys are huge. I mean, I don't even see some of these guys how they're making at 6'4", and with the builds they have and the bone structure they have. I don't even see how they make 205. I don't know.
They're big,
boggles
man.
my mind.
What do you guys think about Aljo versus Cejudo? Apparently, Ali said it was a done deal.
Aljamain, I think it's a very good fight. I like Cejudo, the new Cejudo, the persona that he's portraying now, like a real fighter. So I'm a big Henry Cejudo fan. So I'm pushing for him, but I'm also Aljamain fan also, because he's impressed me how he's become the champ, how he's held the championship. So I don't know Aljamain, so I'm gonna go for Henry, and I know Henry really well. Not really well, sorry. I know him. So I'm pulling for Henry, but I don't think it's gonna be an easy fight by any means.
No. I don't think Aljo's an easy fight for anybody, but I think it favors Cejudo because he can match the speed for sure. Aljo's not. I really don't, and he doesn't. And I don't think Aljo has. I mean, it's tough to say because they're both great wrestlers. Henry definitely has the better pedigree, and he was an Olympian. That's a whole nother. I mean, remember when DC came? I mean, Kane was one thing, and with his relentless pressure, but there's something about the Olympians. They're Olympic. I mean, I don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just there's another level there.
Little tiny moves is what it is. I saw when I used to have Kane and DC wrestle on Saturdays. Just them two only, and I'd watch him go, and DC would get in on Kane just a slight couple inches or an inch, and before you know it, Kane's flying in the air. Every single time, flying. And I used to call Kane Air Kane because DC would make him fly all the time.
That's awesome.
So that's all it is. It's very little tiny movements is all it is. It's nothing fancy, but if you're watching, you'll see, damn it, his hip position was just right, foot position was just right, body position, things of that nature. They're just more aligned, like a straighter line versus a little jiggly. You know what I mean? The straighter line is what.
Do you think that comes from, since like they're like DC and Kane, both D1 All-Americans, do you think that comes from getting the Olympic coaching and the Olympic,
yes,
you know what I mean, like,
and the pedigree of the other Olympians?
Got you. Facing that level of competition.
Yes.
Because in the D1, like the D1, the All-American guys, the guy who wins the national championship, it's like sprinters. It's like the guy who wins the gold medal is like 0.0015 seconds faster than the guy that wins the silver medal.
Exactly.
They're all so close, so it's crazy to see that separation with the Olympic level. It's always amazed me.
Cool. Well, what do you think, Brian? Wrapping it up, huh?
Yep. I think it was a good episode. Of course, with Mr. Bobby Southworth. What a great first guest for us.
Thank you
Yeah,
for having
you're
me.
our first guest, Bobby.
Oh, awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But we gotta have you. We gotta have you back on when we have like 100,000 plus subscribers, though.
Yeah, yeah.
More
Call me
people get
back.
to hear your story.
Call me back. I'll be happy to come on. This was fun.
We'll look forward to having you on again, Bobby.
Thanks, Alv. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Ryan, it was nice to meet you.
It was a pleasure,
Send me a link when you have everything all
Yes,
edited,
sir.
so I could. Is that okay if I put it on my social
Yeah.
media?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
I don't want to piss anybody off and have them
No.
call
No,
you.
no. When we give you, we're gonna give you what you need to post.
All right, thanks,
All
man.
right.
Was
I'll
I
see
mean,
you.
like,
Bye.
Take care.